to our countries, communities, and families. So, since we've exhausted the item on the agenda, I declare close the 39th session of Godspeed and safe journey back to your respective countries. I thank the host country, Ethiopia, for receiving us in this beautiful city of Addis Ababa and the capital of our continent. I request the media to remain in this hall for the press conference that the chairperson of the commission and myself will organize very soon. Thank you very much, and may God be with you as you return back to your country. Thank you. Two quick announcements. The press conference will be here for member states who want to remain. They can still do so.
Excellencies, I have another announcement to do. The conference press will be at 4. The conference press will be at 4. So for the one who needs for the lunch, it will be ready. Le déjeuner sera servi comme hier.
Lunch
Les cartes d'invitation vertes
is served as we did yesterday. Those with green invitation cards is multi-purpose hall, and for the white and yellow is multi-purpose hall. So the press conference will take place here at 4 p.m. Thank you.
Excusez-moi encore une fois, la conférence de presse juste.
ተመልካቾቻችን በአጠቃላይ
No, the DCP is saying something, the chairperson is saying something, Burundi is saying something.
Welcome to the Pulse of Africa, your gateway to Africa's vibrant stories, voices and visions. Join us every Monday and Wednesday for POA in Depth, where we provide sharp analysis of pressing current affairs, keeping you informed and engaged. Tuesdays feature the Africa We Want, dedicated to the African Union's Agenda 2063, discover Africa's journey toward a prosperous and integrated future. On Thursdays, tune into El Dorado, highlighting Africa's rich natural resources and how they can drive true prosperity. Fridays bring you Roundup, where seasoned journalists discuss enduring issues shaping our continent's destiny. Saturdays showcase the editorial, offering Pulse of Africa's perspective on Africa's challenges and opportunities, and celebrate the notables, recognizing remarkable Africans making a difference. And don't forget Sundays are for Africa Melody, honoring our culture, music and entertainment. So tune into the Pulse of Africa and experience the vitality of our continent every day of the week. Subscribe now.
This is Africa.
the cradle of humanity, the frontier of the future, a land of visionaries, creators and pioneers, a continent of unstoppable energy where innovation meets tradition, where voices rise, loud and fearless.
I am an African.
This is the heartbeat of a billion people, diverse, bold, united by a single purpose to tell our own stories in our own way. No borders, no barriers, no filters. A new era of African storytelling is here. From every corner of the continent, from the bustling cities to the quiet village, we tell Africa's story by Africans for the world. This is the land of a rising Africa, where Africa speaks and the world listens. This is why today we bring you POA, Pulse of Africa, the face and voice of Africa.
If you don't tell your story, it will be told by others. They'll talk of hunger, they'll talk of war, they'll talk of conflict, but they'll not say the things that are happening in Africa that are positive.
This is POA, a very new media organization in Ethiopia.
We have to be voice for ourselves. There is no one else that can tell our story better than us.
If it's defending African matters, then go for it. Go for Pulse Media.
This is the Pulse of Africa. Tune in, follow the journey, and learn about the news and what's shaping our African continent.
I am really impressed by the work that they are doing by telling the African story from Africa for Africans. I think it's definitely needed.
Please subscribe to the Pulse of Africa on all platforms.
Hello and a very warm welcome. You are watching the closing ceremony of the 39 African Union Summit. We do know that the 39 ordinary session of the African Union Assembly is expected to be closed after a couple of minutes. The 39 ordinary session of the African Union Assembly has brought together African head of states and governments from various African nations which are member of the African Union, and there are also several other global leaders, continental leaders, who have been attending this important summit, which has been conducted here at the African Union headquarters, which is located in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. For example, the Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, his Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, Amina Mohammed, and other global leaders have been attending this super important continental summit, the African Union. And there are also leaders from other parts of the continent. For example, Prime Minister of Italy, Giorgia Meloni, and others have participated and deliberated on this important summit of the African Union. And today we are expecting the closing ceremony of the 39 ordinary session of the African Union. And of course, the 39th ordinary session of the Assembly of the African Union has been conducted under the theme assuring sustainable water availability and safe sanitation systems to achieve the goals of Agenda 2063. By the way, the 2026 African Union Summit has not started yesterday. In fact, the 2026 African Union Summit has conducted some few days ago, some few weeks ago, with the deliberation of the Permanent Representative Committee. And the Permanent Representative Committee is an essential, crucial key organ of the African Union. It is basically composed of African ambassadors, African permanent representatives to the African Union. And these African ambassadors are based here in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, where the African Union headquarters is located. And the Permanent Representative Committee of the African Union is doing a lot of jobs. For example, it prepares the reports for the Executive Council of the African Union. It also evaluates and monitors the implementation of the African Union. As we know, the African Union is passing different decisions in different times. So one of the major responsibility and task of this important organ of the African Union, the Permanent Representative Committee, or PRC in short, is to monitor and evaluate the implementation of the decisions of the African Union. And basically the Permanent Representative Committee, PRC, prepares the work of Executive Council of the African Union. And once it sets the agenda for the Executive Council of the African Union, the Executive Council of the African Union will deliberate on those agendas and affairs, issues of the African Union, which are recommended and suggested by the Permanent Representative Committee. And we do remember that a few days ago, the 48th ordinary session of the Executive Council of the African Union has been conducted here in Addis Ababa for 2 consecutive days. And the Executive Council of the African Union has been deliberating on various agendas such as peace and security, economic integration, African Union's participation and engagement at global stage, and the African Union's institutional reform and other super important agenda of the continent, which advance Agenda 2063. Which is Africa's blueprint to achieve sustainable and inclusive socio-economic development by the year 2063. Therefore, based on the suggestions and based on the recommendations of the Executive Council of the African Union, the 39th ordinary session of the African Union Assembly has been conducted here in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. It has started yesterday and it's going to be concluded today after a couple of minutes. And we, the Pulse of Africa, the face and voice of Africa, will transmit the closing ceremony of the 39 African Union Summit live from the African Union headquarters. And I am Zelalem Ibeldal, hosting this closing ceremony of the 39 African Union Summit. And we do have correspondence from the African Union headquarters, and we're going to deliver the major important, the main points entertained and highlighted during the closing ceremony from the African Union headquarters with both language, English and Arabic language. And let me highlight to you some of the points raised during the 39th ordinary session of the African Union Assembly. Like I highlighted you in the beginning, the major points entertained during the 39th ordinary session of the African Union Assembly were peace and security, for example. You know, peace and security has continued to be the enduring challenge of the continent, and we see various peace and security problems, lack of peace in different parts of the continent. Almost in 4 corners of the continent, we see significant peace and security challenges in the East, West, South, North, and Central Africa as well. For example, we see enduring challenge, ongoing crisis in Sudan. You know, in Sudan, the war, the conflict and the crisis has been perpetuated by the 2 warring sides, the Sudan Armed Forces and the Rapid Support Forces. And of course, this civil war started in April 2023 and has been going on for the past 2 years. And, you know, there are different organizations, continental and global organizations, including the African Union and the United Nations, which are calling for the cessation of hostilities, which are calling to end this ongoing civil war, which has been devastating Sudan for so long. But there has never been a peaceful solution to the ongoing crisis in Sudan. And this was one of the important agendas spotlighted and raised during the 39th ordinary session of the African Union Assembly. For example, the chairperson of the African Union Commission, His Excellency Mohamed Ali Yusuf, expressed his deep concern over the crisis in Sudan. And of course, this is deeply worrisome, isn't it? As recent statistics indicated, close to 14 million people of Sudan have been displaced because of the ongoing war in Sudan. And millions of people are also, you know, in urgent need, in acute need of humanitarian assistance, food and other basic services, basic needs. And thousands of people have been killed because of the ongoing war, which has been going on over the past 2 years or so. So the international community, leaders of continental and global organizations are calling for the cessation of hostility in Sudan. And this was one of the most important points highlighted during the 39th African Union Summit. And of course, the 39th ordinary session of the African Union Assembly has called on stopping war and crisis in different parts of Africa. For example, in Democratic Republic of Congo, we also see lingering crisis there at the Democratic Republic of Congo. We know that Democratic Republic of Congo is very much endowed with enormous natural resources, mineral resources, but the people of Democratic Republic of Congo couldn't harness and utilize those natural resources for the betterment of themselves. And the United Nations, the African Union, and other leaders of Africa are calling for the cessation of hostilities in Democratic Republic of Congo as well. There is also significant peace and security challenge in East Africa, in particular in Somalia, because of the insurgents activities of Al-Shabaab. Al-Shabaab is a terrorist organization. It has network with different terrorist organizations across the globe, and it wages insurgencies across East Africa beyond the borders of Somalia, and it has undermined political stability, economic integration, trade between and among Eastern African states. And there are also notable peace and security crises in other parts of Africa. And the other most important points entertained during the 39th African Union Summit was, of course, coups and undemocratic change of government. And over the past few years, we have seen unprecedented coups and undemocratic change of government, in particular in the west part of Africa, in West African countries such as Mali, Burkina Faso, Guinea-Bissau, Niger. And these countries, some of these countries have been suspended from the African Union membership. And the regional organization, ECOWAS, Economic Community of Western African States, is also very much vigilant toward this coup and undemocratic change of government. And this important regional organization has suspended some of these countries which have gone through undemocratic change of government. And of course, the African Union is also trying to make sure that the democratic principles of the Union are respected. So it has suspended some countries of Western Africa which have gone through undemocratic change of government and coup. So coup and undemocratic change of government have been an enduring challenge, in particular in West Africa. And in fact, recently we have seen a surge, an increase in undemocratic change of government. So the African Union is trying to make sure that governments ascend to power through election and officials step down through election. And the Union has been paying lots of effort in this regard. And the other important point during the 39th ordinary session of the African Union Assembly is the African Union's engagement and participation at G20 summit. We do remember that this important continental organization, the African Union, has obtained its membership from G20 during 2023. And over the past few months and years, the African Union has been attending several conferences, meetings and summits of G20. And last year in 2025, this important summit, the G20 summit, has been conducted in South Africa, Johannesburg, the first time in African soil. And this is a great milestone for the African Union and for African countries in general. So there are lots of issues which are entertained during the 39th African Union Summit. And I will be back with other relevant informations, and just I invite you to attend the closing ceremony of the 39th African Union Summit live from the African Union headquarters. I will be back.
If you don't tell your story, it will be told by others. They'll talk of hunger, they'll talk of war, they'll talk of conflict, but they'll not say the things that are happening in Africa that are positive.
This is POA, a very new media organization in Ethiopia.
We have to be voice for ourselves. There is no one else that can tell our story better than us.
If it's defending African matters, then go for it. Go for Pulse Media.
This is the Pulse of Africa. Tune in, follow the journey, and learn about the news and what's shaping our African continent.
I am really impressed by the work that they are doing by telling the African story from Africa for Africans. I think it's definitely needed.
Please subscribe to the Pulse of Africa on all platforms.
Let us all unite and toil together to give the best we have to Africa, the cradle of mankind and fount of culture, our pride and hope at the break of dawn. All sons and daughters of Africa, flesh of the sun and flesh of the sky, let us make Africa the tree of life.
This is Africa, the cradle of humanity, the frontier of the future, a land of visionaries, creators and pioneers, a continent of unstoppable energy where innovation meets tradition, where voices rise, loud and fearless.
I am an African.
This is the heartbeat of a billion people, diverse.
The press briefings for today, but for this one of our two principals, please let us meet at 3 o'clock. Thank you so much.
Welcome to Ethiopia, your second home. As you gather for the 48th Ordinary Session of the Executive Council and the 39th Ordinary Session of the AU Assembly, the vibrant city of Addis Ababa opens its arms to you. This year, leaders from across the continent unite under the powerful theme, assuring sustainable water availability and safe sanitation systems to achieve the goals of Agenda 2063. Together, we embark on a journey of meaningful discourse and shared visions for a brighter future. That is not just about discussions within these esteemed halls. As you can see, the streets of Addis Ababa are alive with transformation, all ready to welcome you. Don't miss the iconic Adwa Victory Memorial, a symbol of resilience and pride commemorating Africa's triumph over colonialism. It stands as a testament to the determination of a people ready to defend their sovereignty. Once again, a very warm welcome to Addis Ababa, a city in motion and a destination that feels like home. Together, let's shape the future.
This is Africa, the cradle of humanity, the frontier of the future, a land of visionaries, creators and pioneers, a continent of unstoppable energy where innovation meets tradition, where voices rise, loud and fearless.
I am an African.
This is the heartbeat of a billion people, diverse, bold, united by a single purpose to tell our own stories in our own way. No borders, no barriers, no filters. A new era of African storytelling is here. From every corner of the continent, from the bustling cities to the quiet village, we tell Africa's story by Africans for the world. This is the land of a rising Africa, where Africa speaks and the world listens. This is why today we bring you POA, Pulse of Africa, the face and voice of Africa.
If you don't tell your story, it will be told by others. They'll talk of hunger, they'll talk of war, they'll talk of conflict, but they'll not say the things that are happening in Africa that are positive.
This is POA, a very new media organization in Ethiopia.
We have to be voice for ourselves. There is no one else that can tell our story better than us.
If it's defending African matters, then go for it. Go for Pulse Media.
This is the Pulse of Africa. Tune in, follow the journey, and learn about the news and what's shaping our African continent.
I am really impressed by the work that they are doing by telling the African story from Africa for Africans. I think it's definitely needed.
Please subscribe to the Pulse of Africa on all platforms.
Our esteemed viewers, you are watching the closing ceremony of the 39th African Union Summit, and I am Zelalem Hiveltal hosting you this important event, the closing ceremony of the 39th African Union Summit from our magnificent studio located in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. And we do have correspondents from the African Union headquarters, and later on they will provide and they will update us the important message delivered at the closing ceremony of the 39th African Union Summit. And earlier on we have heard that the closing ceremony of the 39th African Union Summit will start by 3 p.m. That means after 1 hour, it's going to be started from the African Union headquarters situated in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. And earlier on, I have been highlighting you the most important points, the major ideas and affairs deliberated on the 39th Ordinary Session of the African Union Assembly. As we know, the 39th Ordinary Session of the African Union Assembly has brought together various African head of states and governments from different African nations, and several leaders of organizations such as global and continental organizations have also attended this important summit being held in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Peace and security has been one of the most important point that was very much deliberated and entertained at Nelson Mandela Hall inside the African Union headquarters. And there are also other points. For example, the issue of African Union institutional reform has been one of the most important points that gets the focus and attention of African head of states and governments during the deliberation at the 39th Ordinary Session of the African Union Assembly. In fact, the African Union needs some kind of institutional reform. You know, the African Union, when it replaced the predecessors, the Organization of African Unity by 2002, one of the most important points that pushed and initiated African leaders to replace the Organization of African Unity, which was established in 1963 here in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, by the African Union, was the issue of peace and security. Peace and security has continued to be a pressing issue, a burning issue for the continent, for Africa. And the Organization of African Unity couldn't bring about peace and security in Africa. And that was one of the points that initiated and motivated African leaders to replace OAU with AU. Of course, that was not the mandate of Organization of African Unity. You know, the basic target, the basic objective behind establishing the Organization of African Unity was, of course, to liberate African countries from their European colonizers. And by 1960 and by the early 1970, the majority of African nations obtained their independence from colonizers. Of course, that was through struggle, through sacrifice, through independent struggle. And for past couple of decades, 1980s, 1970, we have seen a surge in peace and security challenge in many parts of Africa, and that pushed African leaders to think about reforming the Organization of African Unity. And the reform has come by the year 2002. And after 2002, when the African Union was institutionalized, was established, you know, one of the major target, one of the major assignment of the Union was to ensure peace and security. In fact, after its establishment in 2002, the African Union has done some magnificent works in terms of ensuring peace and security. For example, for the first time in its history, the African organization, the African Union, has been able to deploy forces in different African countries. For example, in Sudan, in Somalia, in other parts of the continent, the African Union has deployed peacekeeping forces, and it has tried to maintain peace and security in many countries of Africa. But it has not gone as far as the people of Africa demanded and desired. So the peace and security challenge of Africa has continued to be an enduring challenge for the continent. That was very much entertained by African leaders and global leaders during their deliberation at the 39th Ordinary Session of the African Union Assembly. And the African Union institutional reform is very much the focus of African leaders. The African Union needs to reform itself, one of the factors that contributed for its ineffectiveness in ensuring peace and security is, of course, for example, the funding issue. Surprisingly, the African Union obtained much of its funding from outside. I have seen recent research that shows that only 30% of the funding of the African Union is covered by African member states of the African Union, but the majority, more than 70% of the funding is coming from outside. So it has made its work incredibly difficult. It couldn't conduct operations on its own programs, on its own agendas, on its own issues. Apparently, if you receive the great majority of your funding from outside source, you're going to be impacted by the interest of outside forces. So this is one of the issue that's going to be deliberated during the 39th Ordinary Session of the African Union. There are also other major issues to be discussed at the 39th Ordinary Session of the African Union Assembly, and today we're going to watch the closing ceremony of the 39th African Union Summit. I will be back with other relevant highlights and information. Stay tuned with the Pulse of Africa, the face and voice of Africa.
Welcome to the Pulse of Africa, your gateway to Africa's vibrant stories, voices and visions. Join us every Monday and Wednesday for POA in Depth, where we provide sharp analysis of pressing current affairs, keeping you informed and engaged. Tuesdays feature the Africa We Want, dedicated to the African Union's Agenda 2063, discover Africa's journey toward a prosperous and integrated future. On Thursdays, tune into El Dorado, highlighting Africa's rich natural resources and how they can drive true prosperity. Fridays bring you Roundup, where seasoned journalists discuss enduring issues shaping our continent's destiny. Saturdays showcase the editorial, offering Pulse of Africa's perspective on Africa's challenges and opportunities, and celebrate the notables, recognizing remarkable Africans making a difference. And don't forget, Sundays are for Africa Melody, honoring our culture, music and entertainment. So tune into the Pulse of Africa and experience the vitality of our continent every day of the week. Subscribe now.
This is Africa, the cradle of humanity, the frontier of the future, a land of visionaries, creators and pioneers, a continent of unstoppable energy where innovation meets tradition, where voices rise, loud and fearless.
I am an African.
This is the heartbeat of a billion people, diverse, bold, united by a single purpose to tell our own stories in our own way. No borders, no barriers, no filters. A new era of African storytelling is here. From every corner of the continent, from the bustling cities to the quiet villages, we tell Africa's story by Africans for the world. This is the land of a rising Africa, where Africa speaks and the world listens. This is why today we bring you POA, Pulse of Africa, the face and voice of Africa.
don't tell your story, it will be told by others. They'll talk of hunger, they'll talk of war, they'll talk of conflict, but they'll not say the things that are happening in Africa that are positive.
This is POA, a very new media organization in Ethiopia.
We have to be voice for ourselves. There is no one else that can tell our story better than us.
If it's defending African matters, then go for it. Go for Pulse Media.
This is the Pulse of Africa. Tune in, follow the journey, and learn about the news and what's shaping our African continent.
I am really impressed by the work that they are doing by telling the African story from Africa for Africans. I think it's definitely needed.
Please subscribe to the Pulse of Africa on all platforms.
If you don't tell your story, it will be told by others. They'll talk of hunger, they'll talk of war, they'll talk of conflict, but they'll not say the things that are happening in Africa that are positive.
This is POA, a very new media organization in Ethiopia.
We have to be voice for ourselves. There is no one else that can tell our story better than us.
If it's defending African matters, then go for it. Go for Pulse Media.
This is the Pulse of Africa. Tune in, follow the journey, and learn about the news and what's shaping our African continent.
I am really impressed by the work that they are doing by telling the African story from Africa for Africans. I think it's definitely needed.
Please subscribe to the Pulse of Africa on all platforms.
Dear viewers, you are watching the closing ceremony of the 39 African Union Summit being held in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. And I am Zelalem Ibeltal hosting you this important live transmission from Pulse of Africa headquarters in Addis Ababa as well. And we do have correspondents from the African Union headquarters, and soon they will deliver us live report regarding the 39 African Union Summit. And earlier on, I have been highlighting you some of the points, some of the issues entertained during the 39 African Union Summit, and the issue of peace and security, the issue of economic integration, the issue of African Union's institutional reform have offered a very important space during the 39 African Union Summit. And the other important affair was the African Union's engagement and participation at G20 Summit. We remember that the African Union obtained this permanent membership at G20 by the year 2023. And for the past several months, the African Union has been attending several summits, conferences of the G20, an important gathering of major world economies. And it is very important for African countries because they will use and utilize this platform to advance their Agenda 2063. For example, agendas related with debt sustainability, climate resilience programs, and so on. We know that Africa is grappling with huge debt crisis, and we know that the climate resilience program is very much vital for Africa because Africa contributes less to the greenhouse gas emission, but it is hit hard by the negative impact of climate change, and Africa in fact needs compensation from global powers in terms of the climate resilience programs. And we do have reporters from African Union headquarters. Our reporter Barakat Sisai is going to deliver us updates regarding the 39 AU Summit, and I will be back with other information. Do stay with the Pulse of Africa.
Welcome to the Pulse of Africa, your gateway to Africa's vibrant stories, voices and visions. Join us every Monday and Wednesday for POA in Depth, where we provide sharp analysis of pressing current affairs, keeping you informed and engaged. Tuesdays feature the Africa We Want, dedicated to the African Union's Agenda 2063, discover Africa's journey toward a prosperous and integrated future. On Thursdays, tune into El Dorado, highlighting Africa's rich natural resources and how they can drive true prosperity. Fridays bring you Roundup, where seasoned journalists discuss enduring issues shaping our continent's destiny. Saturdays showcase the editorial, offering Pulse of Africa's perspective on Africa's challenges and opportunities, and celebrate the notables, recognizing remarkable Africans making a difference. And don't forget, Sundays are for Africa Melody, honoring our culture, music and entertainment. So tune into the Pulse of Africa and experience the vitality of our continent every day of the week. Subscribe now.
This is Africa, the cradle of humanity, the frontier of the future, a land of visionaries, creators and pioneers, a continent of unstoppable energy, where innovation meets tradition, where voices rise, loud and fearless.
I am an African.
This is the heartbeat of a billion people, diverse, bold, united by a single purpose to tell our own stories in our own way. No borders, no barriers, no filters. A new era of African storytelling is here. From every corner of the continent, from the bustling cities to the quiet village, we tell Africa's story by Africans for the world. This is the land of a rising Africa, where Africa speaks and the world listens. This is why today we bring you POA, Pulse of Africa, the face and voice of Africa.
If you don't tell your story, it will be told by others. They'll talk of hunger, they'll talk of war, they'll talk of conflict, but they'll not say the things that are happening in Africa that are positive.
This is POA, a very new media organization in Ethiopia.
We have to be voice for ourselves. There is no one else that can tell our story better than us.
If it's defending African matters, then go for it. Go for Pulse Media.
This is the Pulse of Africa. Tune in, follow the journey, and learn about the news and what's shaping our African continent.
I am really impressed by the work that they are doing by telling the African story from Africa for Africans. I think it's definitely needed.
Please subscribe to the Pulse of Africa on all platforms.
Hello viewers, you are watching Pulse of Africa live from the headquarters of the African Unions, where the 39th organization of the Assembly of the African Heads of State and Government has been held. As we all remember that this summit has been held for 2 days, and today it has already been concluded, and we, the Pulse of Africa, actually outside of the very halls where the leaders has been discussing about, and we do expect some briefings to be given out by the Addis Ababa. As you all remember, our viewers, as we have discussed yesterday in the studio, we have pointed out at least 3 discussion points that we expected these Africa leaders to discuss about in this session. And the first one was the peace and security situation of the African continent. This is, I would say that this is the challenge without having a sustainable solution for quite some time. And by now, we do expect that these leaders have already been discussed and deliberate on this issue. And the first thing, before they discuss about this peace and security situation, I think we do expect that these leaders also endorse the membership election of the new or the 10 memberships to the Peace and Security Council of the African Unions. As we all remember that during the 48th ordinary session of the Executive Council of the African Unions, 10 members country of the African continents were elected to serve for 2 terms for the Peace and Security Council. So this endorsements are also expected during this session of the heads of state and government session. And the other most important thing is, of course, some of the ongoing conflict in the continent. The first one in the Sudan. As we all know that this the crisis in Sudan, it has already passed 3 years, and so many people has been displaced from their vicinities, this village, and this conflict has been creating so many kind of mess in Sudan. And there is no any solution as we spoke today for the Sudan crisis. Of course, there has been some effort by the African Union as a stakeholder as well, and this also expected at the discussion table of the African Union heads of state and government. The other most important peace and security issue was the crisis in the Democratic Republic of Congo, in the eastern part of Congo, and we have also witnessed some peace agreements were signing between the M23 and the Rwandan government, at the same time the Democratic Republic of Congo, but we have seen that parties to the conflict are not actually honoring this peace agreement, and so that's why we have been seeing some sort of conflict is actually popping up in different parts of this, these areas, or as part of the Great Lakes region. And they are the most important thing that were expected to be discussed by the African heads of state and the government related to peace and security is the situation in the western part of the continent, which is very much related to the Sahel crisis. As we all know that this region has been rocked by the continuous or the frequent the military taking over of public office or the unconditional change of the government as well. This actually creating a mess in the African efforts to solidifies a democratic system, at the same time to propel their development as well. So this peace and security situation has been one of the major issues that were also discussed at the African Union's Heads of State and Government Summit. And the other important thing is the situation in Somalia. As we all remember that the peace support operation in Somalia has been doing a very good thing in terms of just fighting terrorism and other equally compelling traits in that countries, because terrorism has a spillover impact on the neighboring countries as well, and African countries has been working toward just containing the operation of the Al-Shabaab and other groups who are actually operating the Somalians. But when you come to the peace operation in Somalia, one of the most important thing is the finance, and the African countries were actually expected to discuss about on how to sustain the finance which is coming to Somalia to make the peace operation in Somalia to be perfect and to beat its own goal as well. So these are some of the most critical things that were actually expected these leaders to discuss in this summit. And the other most important thing is the integration and sustainable development. If you talk about the integration, I think one of the most important thing is the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. As we all remember that this Continental Free Trade Area was launched and already start operation by 2021. Of course, now it is in the pilot stage. We have been seeing some countries has been traded under the this trade frameworks, and we also are seeing some progress in terms of just facilitating trade among and between African countries. And if you look at the figures, the inter-African trades or the trades between among and African countries, which is below 40%, which is very much below when we compare with the capacity of the African countries vis-a-vis, the market potential, the trade potential, the investment potential. And this continental free trade area, which is the capacity of, lifting out of around 40 million people out of poverty by 2014, at the same time increasing the African income or revenue by $460 billion by the end of 2014, which is expected to be, facilitate the implementation as the African leaders are actually taking a political commitment in terms of just implementing and accelerating of this free trade area as well. And the other most important thing is related to the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area is the free movement of people. And some economists, analysts say that without having or ensuring the free movement of people in the continent, having the smooth flow of just products or items from one country to the other is unthinkable. That's why the African Union has also introduced the visa-free protocol for make sure that people can easily move from one place to another. And even some say that, like in Africa, the movement of people is very much difficult, or it has its own hurdles. Sometimes it would be very much easier for one person to move from Africa to somewhere rather than just move within the continent. So this also expected to be at the discussion table of the African heads of state and the government. And the other most important thing related to the sustainable development is the climate issue as well. As we all know that Africa is actually at the victim side of the climate change, despite the fact that it's actually contributed around 4% of the global greenhouse emission. Just imagine, this is, it really exposes, the inequality in terms of just bearing the burden of climate change. That's why many African countries, including the African Union, has been calling for the international communities to increase both the quality and the quantity of the climate finance for the African countries, because African countries and the African people are actually receiving, less amount of money than they have been pledged by the global north, specifically as part of the climate adaptation and mitigation, as part of the loss and damage package as well. And as we can understand from the opening session of the 39th Ordinary Assembly of the African Heads of State and Government, many of the leaders of the African countries were calling out for these international institutions to work on the climate action to be equitable and fair as well. And we do expect a lot of things to come out of this summit as well. And we, as I told you, we are outside of the main hall of the Mandela, where the African leaders are actually discussing about. We do expect some briefings by the Burundian president shortly. Viewers will get back to you after the briefing. Thank you.
If you don't tell your story, it will be told by others. They'll talk of hunger, they'll talk of war, they'll talk of conflict, but they'll not say the things that are happening in Africa that are positive.
This is POA, a very new media organization in Ethiopia.
We have to be voice for ourselves. There is no one else that can tell our story better than us.
If it's defending African matters, then go for it. Go for Pulse Media.
And this is the Pulse of Africa. Tune in, follow the journey, and learn about the news and what's shaping our African continent.
I am really impressed by the work that they are doing by telling the African story from Africa for Africans. I think it's definitely needed.
Please subscribe to the Pulse of Africa on all platforms.
Welcome to Ethiopia, your second home. As you gather for the 48th Ordinary Session of the Executive Council and the 39th Ordinary Session of the AU Assembly, the vibrant city of Addis Ababa opens its arms to you. This year, leaders from across the continent unite under the powerful theme, assuring sustainable water availability and safe sanitation systems to achieve the goals of Agenda 2063. Together, we embark on a journey of meaningful discourse and shared visions for a brighter future. But it's not just about discussions within these esteemed halls. As you can see, the streets of Addis Ababa are alive with transformation, all ready to welcome you. Don't miss the iconic Adwa Victory Memorial, a symbol of resilience and pride commemorating Africa's triumph over colonialism. It stands as a testament to the determination of a people ready to defend their sovereignty. Once again, a very warm welcome to Addis Ababa, a city in motion and a destination that feels like home. Together, let's shape the future.
This is Africa, the cradle of humanity, the frontier of the future, a land of visionaries, creators and pioneers, a continent of unstoppable energy where innovation meets tradition, where voices rise, loud and fearless.
I am an African.
This is the heartbeat of a billion people, diverse, bold, united by a single purpose to tell our own stories in our own way. No borders, no barriers, no filters. A new era of African storytelling is here. From every corner of the continent, from the bustling cities to the quiet villages, we tell Africa's story by Africans for the world. This is the land of a rising Africa, where Africa speaks and the world listens. This is why today we bring you POA, Pulse of Africa, the face and voice of Africa.
Welcome to the Pulse of Africa, your gateway to Africa's...
من هنا من أديس أبابا ومن الاتحاد الأفريقي يسدل الستار على أعمال القمة 39 للاتحاد الأفريقي التي انعقدت تحت شعار ضمان إمدادات مياه مستدامة وأنظمة صرف صحي آمنة دعما لأجندة 2063 في لحظة توصف بأنها مفصلية في مسار العمل المشترك الإفريقي. قمة وضعت قيادة توافر المياه في صدارة الأولويات باعتبارها ركيزة للاستقرار والتنمية والسيادة، لا سيما في ظل الضغوطات المناخية وتزايد الطلاب السكاني واتزاع فجوة البنية التحتية. ناقش الغداء تحديات التمويل المستدام وتعزيز الشراكة وتوطين التكنولوجيا وتحصين المجتمعات الأكثر هشاشة، مؤكدين أن الوصول إلى المياه النظيفة لم يعد مطلبا خدميا فحسب، بل أولوية استراتيجية تربط الأمن الغذائي والصحي وبقدرة الاقتصادات الإفريقية على الصمود والنمو. وشهدت القمة دعوات لتعزيز الاستثمار في مشاريع السدود وشبكات التوظيف وأنظمة الصرف الصحي، إلى جانب تبني سياسات متكاملة لإدارة الموارد البيئية بما يعزز التعاون الإفريقي المشترك. وفي تحول قيادي بارز تسلمت بوروندي رئاسة الاتحاد الأفريقي يوم أمس خلفا لأنغولا في خطوة تجسد مبدأ التداول والتوازن الإقليمي داخل المنطقة الغارية. ويتولى الرئيس البوروندي إيفاريس ندياشيمي مهام الرئاسة الدولية، ويسلط الضوء بتدفع القيادة الجديدة بملفات الإصلاح المؤسسي وتسريع تنفيذ منطقة التجارة الحرة الغارية وتعزيز الأمن والاستقرار قدما. ومع ختام القمة تتجه الأنظار إلى آليات المتابعة والتنفيذ، حيث شدد الغادة على ضرورة تحويل التعهدات إلى برامج زمنية واضحة ومشاريع قابلة للقياس، بما يعكس مباشرة على الصحة الشعبية ويعزز الإنتاجية ويدعم مسار التحول الاقتصادي. ومن المقرر أن يعقد رئيس مفوضية الاتحاد الأفريقي محمود علي يوسف إلى جانب رئيس بوروندي إحاطة إعلامية مشتركة يستعرضان خلالها أبرز ما تم التوصل إليه من قرارات وإجراءات والتزامات عملية في ختام قمة أرادت أن تجعل المياه مدخلا لأمن إفريقيا الشامل وخطوة جديدة نحو تحقيق رؤيتها الطموحة في أجندة 2063. تابعوا معنا نهاية القمة إلى النهاية. كونوا معنا لحظة بلحظة. تدرس حبنوم POA عربي أديس أبابا.
If you don't tell your story, it will be told by others. They'll talk of hunger, they'll talk of war, they'll talk of conflict, but they'll not say the things that are happening in Africa that are positive.
This is POA, a very new media organization in Ethiopia.
We have to be voice for ourselves. There is no one else that can tell our story better than us.
If it's defending African matters, then go for it. Go for Pulse Media.
This is the Pulse of Africa. Tune in, follow the journey, and learn about the news and what's shaping our African continent.
I am really impressed by the work that they are doing by telling the African story from Africa for Africans. I think it's definitely needed.
Please subscribe to the Pulse of Africa on all platforms.
Our esteemed viewers, you are watching the closing ceremony of the 39th African Union Summit live from the African Union headquarters. Earlier on, you have been watching live reports of our correspondents from the African Union headquarters. You have watched the live reports of our correspondents, Barakat and Theodros, who provided us very important and comprehensive agendas of the 39th African Union Summit, which included issues like peace and security, economic integration, sustainable development, African Union's engagement at G20, African Union's institutional reform, and so on. Hope you got important updates regarding the 39th African Union Summit. And the closing ceremony of this important continental summit is going to be held after couple of minutes. And yesterday, during the opening ceremony of the 39th Ordinary Session of the African Union Assembly, we do remember that various continental and global leaders have delivered important speeches there. For example, the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, the African Union Commission Chairperson Mohamed Ali Yusuf, the outgoing African Union Chairperson Joe Lorenzo, who is also currently serving as the President of Angola, Ethiopian Prime Minister His Excellency Dr. Abiy Ahmed, and other African leaders, global leaders, have delivered important speeches here. Let me rewind and let me highlight some of the most powerful messages made there at the Nelson Mandela Hall inside the African Union headquarters. For example, the chairperson of the African Union Commission, His Excellency Mohamed Ali Yusuf, stressed that the Sudan crisis must stop. We have repeatedly said that the Sudan crisis is dire. It, has devastated the country significantly, and millions of people have been displaced. Millions have been in urgent, in acute needs of humanitarian assistance, and thousands have been killed in the ongoing crisis in Sudan. And he called on the warring parties to come to the negotiating table, to the peaceful table, and overcome their differences in a peaceful manner in 21st century in the modern way, in the civilized fashion. And the other speaker was, of course, the Secretary General of the United Nations, Excellency Antonio Guterres. He showed his friendship, his partnership with African countries, and we do know that this is his last term and his last speech at the African Union headquarters. And during his last speech at the African Union, His Excellency Antonio Guterres said that Africa needs to have permanent seat at the United Nations Security Council. We know that Africa, with a population of more than 1.3 billion people, is without any permanent seat at the United Nations Security Council, a key global governance body. And as far as research are concerned, more than 50% of the issues and affairs deliberated on the United Nations Security Council are issues and matters of Africa. But Africans are without seat, without any representation at the United Nations Security Council while their issues are being deliberated. This is deeply worrisome. And His Excellency Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations, has expressed his deep concern and his deep cooperation with African countries in terms of securing permanent seat at the United Nations Security Council. The other speaker was, of course, the Prime Minister of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, His Excellency Dr. Abiy Ahmed. He has made a very powerful points here, points and issues with regards to the imperatives of changing and owning African narratives. We do know that African narratives are very much related with narratives, issues of war, crisis, violence, disease, and so on. And Africa needs to change this trajectory. Africa needs to own its narrative, to secure its sovereignty, which is very much important for the whole continent. So to own, to secure sovereignty, we need to own our narrative. That was very powerful message delivered by His Excellency Dr. Abiy Ahmed. And he has also highlighted the African head of states and governments regarding the kind of transformation, magnificent transformation that the country is undergoing under the current administration. Of course, I was fortunate enough to attend the 39th ordinary session of the African Union Assembly there at the African Union headquarters. And before that important summit started, before the opening started, I was having kind of chat with people coming from different African countries, with journalists, with diplomats, ambassadors and delegates, and all of them shared the idea that Ethiopia is in an amazing, in a drastic change, in a drastic transformation. And they said, we see lots of buildings constructed, lots of infrastructure underway. So the country is surely in a dramatic and drastic transformation. And Ethiopia has a lot to share to African countries, to the globe as well, in terms of ensuring economic transformation, ensuring sustainable development, ensuring even economic integration in the region. Now let me invite you some of the extract of His Excellency Dr. Abiy Ahmed's speech, which he delivered during the opening of the 39th ordinary session of the African Union Assembly, and I will be back with other information.
Your Excellency João Lorenzo, outgoing Chairperson of the African Union, Your Excellency Giorgia Meloni, Prime Minister of the Republic of Italy, Your Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, Your Excellency Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Your Excellency Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations, Your Excellency Madam Amina, Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, former heads of state and government present, distinguished ministers, ambassadors, diplomats, ladies and gentlemen. I warmly welcome you to Ethiopia, a land where human origins are traced, where time is measured differently, where coffee was first shared with the world, a place where deep history, proven resilience, and bold ambition for Africa's future converge. Today, as Africa gathers at a defining moment, we recognize that our continent's most strategic asset is not only what we extract, but what we design, build, and govern. Progress is achieved when vision is translated into systems and ideas into lasting institutions. As we build on the African Water Vision 2025, we reflect on a simple truth. Water is more than a resource. It is a foundation of development, innovation, and stability. It shapes our cities, our farms, our health, and our peace. Here in Ethiopia, we have learned that responsible water management is central to guiding development wisely. The Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam now powers homes and industry, exports electricity to neighboring countries, and shows how African ingenuity can drive shared prosperity. Across Africa, rivers can become engines of stability when governed for shared benefit. On our land, targeted policy and innovation have enabled with self-sufficiency, and large-scale industrial investments are moving us from dependency to production. Excellencies, today, many African economies are among the fastest growing in the world. Projections show that Africa's growth will be on par, if not above, that of Asia. This is a rare convergence in modern economic history. In Ethiopia, we expect growth of 10.2% by the end of this year. Over the next 25 years, we aim to move from a low-income economy to a globally competitive one, anchored in productivity, industrialization, innovation, and quality jobs. Yet, growth alone is not enough. Our greatest wealth is our people. By 2035, Africa will add more young people to the global workforce than the rest of the world combined. This demographic reality must be harnessed with purpose. Numbers alone will not deliver prosperity. That's why we are investing in maternal and child health, expanding early childhood education, and scaling school feeding programs. Every child must arrive at school nourished, ready to learn, and prepare to contribute. We also strongly believe development must include all. Across Ethiopia, urban and rural areas are being transformed, designed to be green, human-centered, and resilient. Excellencies, in Addis Ababa, riverside renewal has transformed degraded waterways into clean, vibrant public spaces, reducing flood risk, restoring dignity, and strengthening community life. As Africa's urban landscape expands rapidly, we must be intentional. The African city of the future is walkable, green, youth-centered, and grounded in dignity and belonging. In rural areas, modernization is enhancing livelihoods, connecting communities to markets. This integrated approach links development with climate stewardship. One expression of this is the Green Legacy Initiative. We have planted more than 48 billion trees, restoring ecosystems and building a living legacy for future generations. Yet, the global development pathway has come at immense environmental costs borne by communities far beyond those responsible. Therefore, climate action must be anchored in justice and equity, aligning finance, technology, and partnership to enable Africa to thrive. In this spirit, we hosted the second Africa Climate Summit, and we are preparing to host COP32, ensuring Africa speaks with one voice and presents solutions to the globe. This same principle of integration guides our technological transformation. Under Digital Ethiopia 2030, we're building digital public infrastructure that places citizens at the center of service delivery. By linking FIDA, our national digital ID, with payment systems and the massive data exchange, we enable secure access to services, seamless transactions, and responsible data sharing, fostering trust and driving our economy forward. In 2020, Ethiopia established Africa's first artificial intelligence institute. Building on this foundation, we are preparing to launch an AI university anchored in the Ethiopian philosophy of Maddamar, synergy through purposeful collaboration. This institution will unite human values with machine intelligence, local context with global relevance, and scientific rigor with applied impact. It will ensure technology drives growth and position Africa as a global contributor in the age of intelligence. Ethiopia is also continuing to invest in connectivity. Through Ethiopian Airlines, we connect people, link markets, and move goods. To sustain this momentum, we are building Africa's largest airport, a next-generation gateway that will anchor our continent in global value chain. Beyond aviation, Ethio Telecom is expanding across Africa, bridging the digital divide and linking our continent's future through strategic partnerships. Yet, connectivity must be complete. For a nation like Ethiopia, with over 130 million people, sustainable growth requires diversified access. Ensuring reliable access to the sea through peaceful cooperation is fundamental to our economic future and to long-term stability and prosperity in the Horn of Africa. Excellencies, we meet at a moment of profound global transition. In this era of uncertainty, Africa's strengths will lie in a union that is confident and united. As we approach the African Union Silver Jubilee, the moment marks a transition from foundational unity to functional sovereignty. Sovereignty means owning our narrative. Through initiatives like Pulse of Africa, we amplify African voices because development is never complete without our story. Africa can contribute stability, scale, and solutions to a changing world. But we must do more than respond to crisis. We must shape agendas, turning vision into action, and leading with purpose. Every river we manage, every city we design, and every digital platform we deploy must generate resilient opportunity and dignity. By 2063, Africa will be defined by what we secure, what we sustain, and what we share. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our moment, and this is our responsibility. To conclude, I extend my appreciation to our outgoing chairperson, President João Lourenço, for his leadership and service to our union. I also warmly congratulate our new incoming chairperson and wish him success in guiding Africa forward. God bless Ethiopia. God bless Africa. I thank you.
Welcome to the Pulse of Africa, your gateway to Africa's vibrant stories, voices and visions. Join us every Monday and Wednesday for POA in Depth, where we provide sharp analysis of pressing current affairs, keeping you informed and engaged. Tuesdays feature the Africa We Want, dedicated to the African Union's Agenda 2063, discover Africa's journey toward a prosperous and integrated future. On Thursdays, tune into El Dorado, highlighting Africa's rich natural resources and how they can drive true prosperity. Fridays bring you Roundup, where seasoned journalists discuss enduring issues shaping our continent's destiny. Saturdays showcase the editorial, offering Pulse of Africa's perspective on Africa's challenges and opportunities, and celebrate the notables, recognizing remarkable Africans making a difference. And don't forget, Sundays are for Africa Melody, honoring our culture, music and entertainment. So tune into the Pulse of Africa and experience the vitality of our continent every day of the week. Subscribe now.
This is our live transmission of the 39 African Union Summit from the African Union headquarters here in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. And earlier on, you have been watching the speech of His Excellency Dr. Abiy Ahmed, the Prime Minister of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, which he delivered yesterday at the opening of the 39th Ordinary Session of the African Union Assembly. The assembly started yesterday and it's going to be completed and concluded today. And the conclusion ceremony, the closing ceremony of the 39th African Union Summit is going to start after a few minutes. And during his speech, His Excellency Dr. Abiy Ahmed spoke lots of things, and the 2026 African Union Summit is being held under the theme assuring sustainable water availability and safe sanitation systems to achieve the goals of Agenda 2063. This is a super important agenda, isn't it? As to the African Union information, more than 300 million peoples of Africa are struggling with lack of safe water. So this is important to ensure water availability across Africa. In relation to water and availability of water, fair and equitable utilization of water resource, His Excellency Dr. Abiy Ahmed, in his speech at the 39th Ordinary Session of the African Union Assembly, explained about Ethiopia's significant strides towards utilizing its own natural resource, its own water resource. Ethiopia has constructed one of the largest dam in the world, the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. It is the largest hydropower project in Africa, and it has been constructed with a cost of $5 billion. Huge money. And it was totally and absolutely financed by the people and government of Ethiopia. And this shows Ethiopia's commitment towards clean energy, Ethiopia's commitment to hydroelectric power. This dam with a capacity of generating more than 5,000 megawatts of electricity will electrify millions of homes in Ethiopia. Ethiopia, more than 50% of its people are out of power, out of electricity. So this Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam will have significant contribution for Ethiopians in terms of electrifying their home, in terms of accelerating, in terms of catalyzing economy, in terms of ensuring sustainable economic growth, which aligns with Agenda 2063, which is Africa's blueprint to achieve inclusive and sustainable economic growth by the year 2063. So the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam could be a model for Africa in terms of utilizing our own water resource, our natural resource, for the benefit of our people. Ethiopia, after constructing the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, is exporting power with a cheap price for its neighbors, for example, for South Sudan, Djibouti. And there are also agreements with countries such as Kenya and other neighboring countries of Eastern Africa. And Ethiopia is working for economic integration of the region. And economic integration is crucially vital, incredibly important for Africa, because intra-Africa trade between and among countries of Africa is very low compared with other continents, for example, with Europe and Asia. So, in fact, Africa needs to work toward economic integration. And this is also the agenda of the African Union at the 39th Ordinary Session of the African Union Assembly. And there are so many agendas, and economic integration is crucially important for Africa. And now I will lead you to the closing ceremony of the 39th African Union Summit, live from the African Union headquarters. To stay with the pulse of Africa, and I will be back with other updates. Stay tuned.
Of the African Union Commission, honorable delegates who may be here, representatives of the media, ladies and gentlemen. It is my honor to welcome you to this high-level press briefing to close the 39th session of the Assembly of the African Union. And it was held under the theme, Assuring Sustainable Water Availability and Safe Sanitation to Achieve the Goals of Agenda 2063. With me here, to my right, I have His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Burundi, His Excellency Evariste Ndayishimiye, and he is the chairperson of the African Union for the year 2026. To his right, I have His Excellency Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, who is the chairperson of the African Union Commission, which is the Secretariat of the African Union. Excellency, before we begin, I present to you the media from Africa and internationally, and also to report that our overall numbers for this year were 700 journalists who came to attend this summit. At this point, I will now call upon His Excellency, the Chairperson of the African Union, President Evariste Ndayishimiye. Excellence, you have the floor.
Merci, Madame.
Thank you very much, Madam. Dear representatives of the media, I'm happy to address you and to interact with you following the 39th session of the Assembly of the African Union held on 14th and 15th February 2026 here in Addis Ababa. I fully measure the honor and the responsibility placed on me in being elected chairperson of the African Union for 2026. I thank my peers for the trust reposed in me and pay a vibrant tribute to my predecessor, the President of Angola, for his leadership and for his commitment at the service of our continent. During this summit, we launched the theme of the year 2026, namely ensuring sustainable availability of water and safe sanitation systems in order to achieve the objectives of Agenda 2063. The choice reflects a deep conviction because without equitable access to water and sanitation, we cannot talk of public health or inclusive development or sustainable prosperity for our people. Our discussions also focused on the major challenges facing Africa. In my acceptance speech, I expressed the deep concerns of Burundi in the face of persistent armed conflict blighting the continent and which prevents it from developing. In the roadmap presented, Burundi expressed its determination to contribute its quota in order to silence the guns and reinforce the African peace mechanisms. Furthermore, delegations reiterated their commitment to build a more efficient African Union that is human-centered and capable of meeting the aspirations of the continent, especially a more equitable representation of Africa in global governance. Agenda 2063 is our strategic blueprint for inclusive and sustainable growth on the continent. Therefore, we encourage the expediting of the implementation of ASCFTA, the transformation of our agriculture sector, as well as investments in infrastructure, innovation, youth, and women's empowerment. And these are the tools that are necessary for the structural transformation of Africa. We also stressed the importance of coordinated African action within the G20 in order to better defend our common priorities, whether it's about development financing, food security, climate transformation, or digital transformation. We need to defend our position. So together, we adopted decisions, declarations, and resolutions during this session with a firm desire to translate our commitment into concrete action at the service of the African people. So I also wish to express our deep gratitude to the government and the people of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia for their warm reception and the excellent facilities made available to ensure the success of this summit. Africa is decisively moving towards a future of peace, integration, and shared prosperity. I thank you for your kind attention, and I'm ready to respond to your questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Excellency, the Chairperson of the African Union and the President of the Republic of Burundi. Let me now hand over to the Chairperson of the African Union Commission, His Excellency Mahmoud Ali Yusuf. Excellency, you have the floor.
Thank you. Your Excellency, President Evariste Ndayishimiye, President of the Republic of Burundi, and the Chairperson of the African Union, ladies and gentlemen from the media, good afternoon. Welcome to Nelson Mandela Hall. It is in this hall that we hold our ordinary session, and very happy to receive you this afternoon after 5 days of intense meetings. And these meetings started with the PRC, which is the representative of member countries, on the 11th, actually in mid-January. And what we started actually on the 11th is the Executive Council meeting, and then the summit from the 14th and 15th of February. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a new momentum today in the methodology and the way we organized our meetings. So you have certainly noticed that very long meetings have been shortened. We used to end our meetings, early in the morning sometimes, working the whole night, but thanks to the leadership of His Excellency President Ndayishimiye, we managed to really squeeze the agenda and control the deliberations in a way that we could, meet the expectations of our leaders, because they didn't want these kind of marathon meetings. That's number one in terms of new momentum that we have discussed, and it's a good beginning. The second issue is that we try to focus our attention on strategic issues. Most of the deliberations and discussions took place in this hall with regard to peace and security on the continent, the reforms that we are trying to put in place for this organization, and at the end also the participation of the African Union to the G20. Of course, we received the reports of the assembly committees, which are presided over by heads of states. Agenda 2063 was one of them, the reports, or the NEPAD report, the AFCFTA report, and so on and so forth, and in particular also a report on the UN Security Council reforms and the demands of the African Union to have these 2 permanent seats with the right of veto and 5 non-permanent seats. And as a side events, there were almost 15 side events that have been organized during these 4 days of the 39 session of the summit. We had a forum of the business community. That was also something new. Given the fact that the financing of our development programs are becoming more and more challenging, it has been advised that we embark on a journey with our business community so that they also become a contributor to our development programs. And we had a forum as a side event in this building. The second side event, which is very important, was, His Excellency the President said it, was the launch of the theme of the year, water and sanitation. We know all about that. And then the third forum also was organized around how best we can strengthen our health structures. And I know that this is a big challenge for the continent, and the CDC has been very, very active, very instrumental in this particular sector, and so on and so on, so on and so forth. So the conference actually pinpointed the fact that the heads of state will have zero tolerance for unconstitutional or unconstitutional change of governments on our continent. The conference also underscored its determination to silence the guns. This is also a very important program if we contemplate to develop this continent and create the integration conditions for our countries. We need to silence the guns. We need peace on this continent. We need stability on this continent, and we have a program for that. The conference really underscored the necessity and its determination to pursue the goal of silencing the guns. And finally, the conference also committed to support the reforms, because without reforming the way we are handling our security issue, peace issue, the way we are handling our economic challenges and trade-related affairs, I think it will be very difficult to reach the deliverables that we need to reach. And we all know that the Agenda 2063 is built on 5 pillars, which are the 10-year plan, and then divided in 5-year plans. And we launched the 2024-2028 5-year plan, and we would like to see better performance in terms of deliverables in the time frame of this 10-year plan. So it's not easy, it won't be easy, but we are very optimistic and hopeful because we believe that the continent has what it takes in terms of resources, human resources, financial resources. It has, natural resources, and we do have also the policies that we need to implement Agenda 2063 through these plans and also roadmaps. Now, it's very important also, one last point, that the conference recognize, colonization as a crime against humanity. That's very important. And we also the conference expressed its solidarity with Palestine and the Palestinian people, and invited the Prime Minister of the Palestinian Authority to come and deliver his speech here. This is a tradition in this building. This is not the first time, but given the circumstances now and what is going on in Gaza and the West Bank, I think it had a more, let's say, symbolic importance than anything else. But the African Union member countries support the rights of the people of Palestine to become independent and have their own statehood. Thank you very much. We are ready to take on a number of questions.
Thank you very much, Excellency. Let's go straight into our question and answer section. Can I have a show of hands? If I've asked you to speak, very quickly introduce yourself, ask your one question per person so that we can get through the 5 questions that we have scheduled. The first hand that I saw went up from here, then there was that one. I will take the lady at the back. Let's go with those 3 for the first round. Please. Please, can you go to a microphone?
Tom Kennedy from France 24, question for the President of Burundi. What is your strategy to resolve the crisis in the east of the DRC?
Thank you. Please introduce yourself and ask your question.
Mike, give him the mic.
Bonjour, c'est Mohamed Wali, journaliste de la télévision algérienne.
Good afternoon. The summit has just adopted the Algiers Declaration on the crimes committed during colonization. So what do you think about this initiative and the initiative taken by Algeria? How do you see this initiative of Algeria within the context of the continent, this complementarity?
Please, Madam, give us your name and ask your question.
Good afternoon. My name is Bongani Siziba, News Central TV, Nigeria. My question is, has the conference maybe discussed on the inclusion of Sahel countries? Because you speak about silencing of the guns. Is there maybe a discussion on including them in the AU?
Excellency, Chairperson of the Union, I will hand over to you.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. You asked a question which we think is very interesting, a question concerning the stabilization of Eastern DRC. First of all, we are hoping, we do have hope, because already the two sides, the two factions are actually willing to sit down and talk. They want dialogue. So there is this tension between Rwanda and DRC. But even within the countries, within Congo, we have armed groups, Congolese armed groups. So, first we want to see that there is peace between DRC and Rwanda. And we already have the Washington Agreement, which actually brought in a ceasefire. And the ceasefire is an instrument. It's an instrument that brings together the factions. Even today, it looks like there is no real trust between the two sides. There is that instrument already, but they are under the obligation to implement that agreement, because both of them signed the agreement. So the mediators have to assist the two parties to implement this agreement. And also, there must be a mechanism for the implementation of this agreement. We talk about a ceasefire, yes, that's one thing, but it has to be implemented. And for us, for this to be implemented, then you have, for example, the withdrawal of the forces. You have the foreign forces who have to pull out and go back to their own countries. And we also have to ensure that none of the parties will go back to a warring or to a situation of war. So they must guarantee the lives of the people. But also, the ceasefire implies that there must be demobilization, disarmament, and also a process to guarantee the security and safety of all the citizens involved. Because if the fighters leave the battleground, the people find in the Washington agreement, but even within Congo, you have this kind of discussion. And even in Doha, there was also the ceasefire and also a call for dialogue. So this has to do with the Congolese people. The Congolese people could put their heads together around the table and have a dialogue. And I did hear that President Felix Tshisekedi is determined to start an internal dialogue process to restore stability in the country. And so as the African Union, our role here is to walk the path with them, to give them the support they need, to ensure that they actually engage in a peace process. So that is my answer to the first question that was asked. Thank you. I would like to add to the explanations given by the chair of the union that the African Union has put in place a mechanism that is championed by the president of Togo, for Nyasimbe. And there is a secretariat that is put in place here in Addis Ababa. And of course, you have some dignitaries, some former presidents like President Obasanjo, President Sahle-Work, President Panza. So these former presidents, they have terms of reference, clear-cut terms of reference, and they are going to help, especially in the areas that President Ndayishimiye just mentioned here, that is to ensure that all what is happening within the DRC and also relations with Rwanda. So President Faure has already undertaken some field missions to those countries. He's with the president of Burundi. And I think that the African Union today is in a position to undertake this mediation and not to leave it only in the hands of external partners to try to resolve African problems. So the Washington Agreement was welcomed and appreciated by the African Union, even the Doha Declaration as well. But now it is the turn of the African Union to step in and to ensure mediation and also stabilization in DRC. Thank you. That's what I had to say.
Take the other two questions, Excellency Chairperson.
Yeah, with regard to the second question, the theme of last year, if you remember, was the reparations for Africans and African ascendants due to the slavery and colonization eras. I think it's very important to understand and underscore that the African Union has always considered colonization, slavery, as a crime against humanity. So this year, the conference has again, underscored the fact that we needed to make it in a declaration, and the declaration presented by Algeria has been endorsed. So it's very important to demonstrate that kind of commitment and determination to fight against all form of colonization on the continent. And I think this is something that is in line with the whole struggle for independence since the 60s, 50s, 60s, and then it is ongoing. And I think that this issue of colonization and reparations will continue to be, our leitmotif in this union.
Excellency, there was a question on the inclusion of the countries of the Sahel.
Merci.
Thank you. The situation in the Sahel is not an issue that can be taken lightly, that should be taken lightly, it's a very complex issue because the terrorism which is entrenched in the zone, these terrorists are committing cross-border crimes and it affects the entire region. So the first thing is that we need to ensure solidarity among the states of the region to fight the terrorist threat together. And this is what the African Union is doing to assist them to restore peace in the region. But also, the issue is very complex because there are also states whose institutions are not internationally recognized. And you know, the African Union is against the unconstitutional change of government. So we see that the leaders of these states also, we need to engage with them so that they can quickly restore the constitutional order and also assist them to stabilize their state. So today, we cannot say that we need to involve the terrorists. The terrorists, they have no ideology. Their ideology is criminal in nature. So there's we cannot engage with a criminal and bring about peace, whereas their ideology is criminal in general. And so we need to get all the citizens of the region to unite, to work together, and even convince them that they have a common enemy. And this can be done when the leaders of the region are together to mobilize their citizens. So this is what the African Union would like to do. And that's why the African Union has maintained links or communication with the countries of the Sahel so that we can together find solution to the threat.
Person?
Yes, the issue of reintegration of the Sahel countries in the African Union, President Ndayishimiye has already tackled and handled it. The biggest problem that we have in that region is the proliferation of terrorist groups, traffickers, and all kinds of secessionist rebellions. And this region has become a source of concern when it comes to the neighboring countries too. So it's very important also to understand that we need to continue to engage with them. When I assumed office, I immediately appointed a special envoy, and my special envoy has been meeting recently with the leaders of those countries. And I also requested a visit to those capitals so that I can also start a direct dialogue with the leaders of that region. I think the Sahel countries need the support of the whole African Union, and I know that there is an initiative now that more than the neighboring countries, 18 countries of that region are seriously thinking of creating a platform, a common platform, on how best they can handle these security issues together and not leave it to the 3 Sahel countries. I think this initiative will certainly be of critical importance in the coming weeks and months. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have 2 more questions. I'm just looking at the hands. Okay, there is one gentleman there at the back. I will take the gentleman at the back. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Talking about the African Continental Free Trade Area, I mean, a lot of applause and thumbs up coming in the execution by the SADC region and somehow by Ethiopia, obviously an anchor nation in the Horn and Eastern Africa. To what extent the conflict in the Sahel threatening the ongoing African Continental Free Trade Area, and why you, the organization, failed to set initiatives to halt the ongoing conflict in the Sahel region. And of course, the African Continental Free Trade is one of the leading initiatives by the African Union, showing a good progress and performance. But in the area of peace and security, we've been hearing African Union condemns these are the problems and stuff like that.
All right.
But we haven't seen any initiative in that regard.
Thank you. Thank you. There was a hand at the back. Please go ahead, sir. Interpreters, we cannot hear you.
We can hear them.
Right, thank you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. My name is Emmanuel Pakom Damali. I'm a journalist with the Daily Graphic from Ghana. The President of the Republic of Ghana, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, has decided or has already drawn the attention of the AU that he's going to table a resolution at the UN next month declaring slavery and slave trade as the greatest crime against humanity and seeking for reparation and reparative justice. We want to find out what is the commitment of the AU towards this cause and what strategies are you adopting to push for this agenda for the continent of Africa to gain its reparative justice that it seeks. Thank you very much.
One more question. There is a gentleman who put his hand up very quickly here.
Thank you. This is Samuel from Ethiopian Press Agency. How does the AU view Ethiopia's Green Legacy Initiative as a model for enhancing watersheds and ensuring long-term water security across the Horn of Africa? Thank you.
Excellency Chair of the Commission, I will start with you.
The question around the lack of efficiency of the African Union to resolve crises and conflicts, and the lack of initiatives that create a sense of failure. And this could have an impactful effect on the development of trade on the continent, and in particular through our common framework, which is EFCFTA. Let me say that initiatives that create that sense. Even an hour ago, I was in a C5 meeting, presided over by His Excellency President Ramaphosa on the Republic of South Sudan, and so many leaders, presidents were present. And I think that there are so many mechanisms that we try to use and utilize in order to bring peace and stability in some of our regions where we have conflicts and unstable situations. You are right when you say that one of the non-tariff barrier that we always refer to and mention is the lack of security in the border areas. If you don't have, 100% security in border areas, it's very difficult for goods to cross the border. It's a real challenge. And then, of course, the unconstitutional change of governments create also more tension, not only inside the country, but also it might have a spillover effect on neighboring countries. But silencing the guns is really a flagship program in this Agenda 2063, and we are putting all our efforts, resources, and all the mechanisms necessary so that we can bring a difference on the ground. Monsieur le Président.
Merci. D'abord.
Thank you. Well, at the moment, we cannot say that there are failures because we are still at the very beginning of the operationalization. So, since we are still at the very beginning, definitely there are challenges, there are hurdles in the process. But the chairperson of the Commission has just mentioned that, as a matter of fact, for us to have trade, there must be stability, even within our countries. If there is instability within a country, trade is difficult, and it's even more difficult when there is instability between two countries. It becomes more complicated. But at the moment, we are very, very optimistic. We are optimistic because with time, or as time goes on, we are looking at strategies for ensuring stability and peace.
The second question on the resolution that will be tabled by Ghana next month at the UN Security Council by His Excellency President John Mahama. I think that if Ghana decided to go to the UN Security Council, it is with the mandate of the African Union and with the support of the 55 countries. And without that support and the support of the A3 plus is the non-permanent members of the African countries in the Security Council. And I think that the whole process of demanding reparations and asking that slavery is and was considered as a crime against humanity, it is a collective effort. And Ghana is relying on the support of the African group in New York to advocate for that and to lobby for that. So rest assured that the Commission is behind Ghana to support the tabling of that resolution at the UN Security Council.
Excellency, do you want to continue and take the one on the green legacy?
On green legacy?
Yes, sir.
The African Union Commission really congratulates Ethiopia for its tremendous efforts it has been deploying in protecting the environment, launching this green legacy, and His Excellency Prime Minister Abiy has been very successful, and we have just to see the city of Addis Ababa that it speaks for itself. And also we have to remind us all that Ethiopia organized the African Climate Summit, which is now the declaration of that summit, the roadmap of that summit will be the reference documents for the African position when it will come to defend our position in climate justice, the financing of our adaptation plan, and also the voicing also the expectations of continent in energy transition, et cetera, et cetera. All these issues, you know them. And beyond that, we are preparing also, on the top of that, I mean, we are preparing ourselves to host here in Ethiopia, COP32. This will be the first time that the African continent will host this big event where almost 100,000 people will come, and it will be a great platform to voice the requirements, let's say the demands and expectations of this continent. And we also all know that we are the most affected by climate change, and we are not the countries which has, contributed to the green gas. How do you call it? Greenhouse effect. Greenhouse effect. Yes, greenhouse effect and emissions. The African continent contributed only up to 4%. 4%. To the greenhouse effect and emissions, and the polluters have to pay. They have to support our member countries to develop their adaptation plans to fight against climate change, and each and every year, devastating cyclones, droughts, floodings, hit our continent, and most recently we had very difficult, very strong cyclones in Mozambique, southern part of Madagascar, and a year ago it was drought, that has stricken countries in the southern part of Africa, Zambia, Zimbabwe, and then floods in Somalia and elsewhere. I think it's very important to understand that this cycle of destructive natural phenomenon will keep repeating itself. And that's why adaptation plans are really a matter of survival for our economies. Just to give you also another example, one cyclone can destroy the economy of a country for good. from an emerging economy, you can just drop to the least developed country in one night. That's why I think it's very important to understand the effect of the climate change. What we are doing also, just to finish on this point, what we are doing as advocacy is to link, to show the nexus between climate change, migration, and debt sustainability. Because it is all turning around, circling around the economies of our countries. So we cannot, spare resources for development if we have to deal with the consequences of destructive natural phenomena that are the direct results of climate change.
Thank you, Excellency Chairperson of the Union. Do you have a comment?
Thank you very much for the media, for your presence. You have been very patient for a number of days, and you did, a great job. So the Commission and the Chairperson of the Union, thank you for your patience and your support. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, colleagues. Thank you for attending this press briefing.
Welcome to the Pulse of Africa, your gateway to Africa's vibrant stories, voices and visions. Join us every Monday and Wednesday for POA in Depth, where we provide sharp analysis of pressing current affairs, keeping you informed and engaged. Tuesdays feature the Africa We Want, dedicated to the African Union's Agenda 2063, discover Africa's journey toward a prosperous and integrated future. On Thursdays, tune into El Dorado, highlighting Africa's rich natural resources and how they can drive true prosperity. Fridays bring you Roundup, where seasoned journalists discuss enduring issues shaping our continent's destiny. Saturdays showcase the editorial, offering Pulse of Africa's perspective on Africa's challenges and opportunities, and celebrate the notables, recognizing remarkable Africans making a difference. And don't forget Sundays are for Africa Melody, honoring our culture, music and entertainment. So tune into the Pulse of Africa and experience the vitality of our continent every day of the week. Subscribe now.
Yeah, you have been watching the closing ceremony of the 39 African Union Summit from the African Union headquarters located in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. And you have been watching the media briefing of the closing ceremony of the 39 African Union Summit. And essentially, the two officials of the African Union, the chairperson of the African Union and the chairperson of the African Union Commission, delivered a very brief but very important briefing for media. And the new chairperson of the African Union, Everest Ndayishimiye, he was one of the speakers, and he the president of Burundi. And the new chairperson of the African Union thanked the outgoing chairperson of the African Union, Joe Lorenzo, who is currently serving as the president of Angola, for his steadfast commitment for the realization of Agenda 2063. And the new chairperson of the African Union, Everest Ndayishimiye, also thanked the people and the government of Ethiopia for the warm hospitality, for the kind hospitality they offered. And Everest Ndayishimiye, the new chairperson of the African Union, went on explaining some points deliberated during the 39th ordinary session of the Assembly of the African Union. And he also expressed Burundi's commitment for silencing the gun. We have been saying that peace and security has been undermining development efforts in various parts of the country, and silencing the gun is going to be my area of focus, said the chairperson of the African Union. Everest Daishimia. He also said that he will work for the representation of Africa, for more representation of Africa in global organizations. For example, we know that Africa's representation in international organizations such as the United Nations, the World Bank, IMF, International Monetary Fund is significantly low. So the new chairperson of the African Union, Everest Daishimia, expressed his commitment in terms of boosting and bolstering Africa's representation in global organizations. The other speaker was, of course, the chairperson of the African Union Commission, His Excellency Mohamed Ali Yusuf. He also thanked the outgoing chairperson of the African Union, Joe Lorenzo, currently serving as the president of Angola. And the chairperson of the African Union Commission went on explaining some of the decisions reached and the discussion held over the past 2 days, today and yesterday, on the 39th ordinary session of the Assembly of the African Union. He has touched upon various pointers. For example, he said the African Union expressed its commitment to silence the gun. And he says that silencing the gun is the flagship project and program with regards to African Union Agenda 2063. We know that the African Union, as the chairperson of the African Union Commission, Mohamed Ali Yusuf, pointed out, has been putting lots of efforts and commitment to make sure that guns are silenced in the continent. And the African Union Commission chairperson, Mohamed Ali Yusuf, also said that the Union has showed zero tolerance for undemocratic change of government in coups, and we have seen a proliferation and increasing undemocratic change of government, in particular in the western part of Africa. Over the past few years, recently, we saw undemocratic change of government in Niger, Burkina Faso, Mali, and other countries of West Africa. And of course, the African Union has suspended some of these countries who have gone through undemocratic change of government. And this is, of course, one of the top agenda during the African Union Assembly deliberation over the past 2 days. And the chairperson of the African Union Commission, in his media briefing, also said that the African Union also showed commitment to push forward African Union, Africa's representation at the United Nations Security Council. He said the Union will work to secure at least 2 permanent seats at the United Nations Security Council. Till now, African countries do not have any representation at the United Nations Security Council, key global governance body. And the chairperson of the African Union Commission, His Excellency Mohamed Ali Yusuf, also said that the Union has underscored colonization as crime against humanity. And we do know that, in particular, in recent years, the African Union is showing its steadfast commitment to fight colonization and new forms of colonization like neocolonialism. And we do remember that last year, the 2025 African Union Summit agenda theme was Justice for Africa and Peoples of African Descent Through Repression. We know that Africa's journey, Africa's history has been a bit difficult, which started from slavery and then to colonialism, and then now a new form of colonialism in the form of neocolonialism. And the African Union has showed its commitment to fight all forms of colonialism and underlined that colonization is a crime against humanity. And the chairperson of the African Union Commission, His Excellency Mohamed Ali Yusuf, also lauded Ethiopia's effort, appreciated Ethiopia's effort in climate resilience programs. We do know that Ethiopia has been able to plant more than 48 billion trees over the past few years, and that showed Ethiopia's commitment for green economy, green energy. And now let us take you to the African Union headquarters. We do have our correspondents there, Barakat and Theodros, providing us live updates from the African Union headquarters. Here you go, Barakat.
Hello viewers, you are watching Pulse of Africa live from the headquarters of the African Union, where the 39th organization of the Assembly of the African Union has been held, and as you can understand from the live reporting, the 39 organization of the Assembly of the African Heads of State and Government has been concluded, and the final event, which was actually the briefing by the Burundian President Reveste Ndayishimiye, has given out with along with the African Union Commissioner Muhammad Ali Yusuf. As you can understand from the briefing, it was actually live on our channel as well, and the Burundian president said that the African leaders deliberate on some of the most important challenges of the continent, which is very much related to the peace and security situation of the continent. Specifically, some of the concerns in the continent was the armed violence in different parts of the continent, and African leaders also expressed their willingness to contribute their efforts to make sure that the gun is actually silencing in the continent. And he also actually talking about the reform of the African Union as well, and the African member country also committed to ramp up their efforts to make this continental body to be more effective, efficient, and at the same time to be self-reliant, specifically when it comes to the financial resources of the African Union as well. And the other most important thing, which was actually raised by the Burundian president, he is also the current chairperson of the African Union, was the implementation of the Agenda 2063. He was saying that there has been some good progress are actually coming out of different from various countries of the African continent, but still challenges are actually persisted. And the African country also expressed their commitment for the acceleration and implementation of the Agenda 2063. And he also, call upon the African countries to make sure that the participation of women and youth in the realization of Agenda 2063, because as we all know that Africa is the continent of youth, and we have to use the youth bulge or the demographic dividend of the population. He was, particularly, referring to the youth population of the continent. Apart from that, the African leaders also deliberate on some of the most important issues related to the digital transformation, the agriculture transformation, and he also calling out the African countries to work on the food security of the continent. Unless otherwise, Africa cannot be strong enough to, present itself at the international level. And the other most important thing he raised about is this year's theme. As we all know that this year's theme is the water availability and safe sanitation system to achieve the goal of 2063. And he said that the African Union has its own program or roadmaps on how to realize this agenda. But he said that the African member countries are expected to do on a unilateral basis to achieve such a kind of agendas as well. Apart from this saying, the Burundian president, he is also the chairperson of the African Union, also praised the Ethiopian government for its warm welcome and the smooth services which is actually delivered to the African brothers and sisters who are actually residing here in Addis for the attendance of the African Union heads of state and the government. Apart from the Burundian president, the African Union Commissioner Commissioner Muhammad Ali Yusuf also gave a briefing, and he said that he even began his saying by telling the journalists that there is a new momentum is actually surfacing or arriving in the African Union Commission as well, because nowadays, for example, today's briefing also given immediately after the end of the session, and he was saying that this is the part of the reform of the African Union, because in the previous time there was a long hour of discussions among the African leaders, but now he said that along with the discussion that he has with the current chairperson of the African Union, the Burundian president, they try to squeeze some of the agendas, and the African leaders were able to focus on some of the strategic important things of the continent. And just like the Burundian president, the African Union Commissioner Muhammad Ali Yusuf also said that the African leaders deliberate on the peace and security situation of the continent, and he was particularly focusing on how to realize the silencing the gun, which is actually a long overdue question of many of the African friends, the African countries, and the African leaders. And he has been calling the African leaders to, come together and realize this agenda. He also mentioned that the African countries also expressed their commitment to realize this agenda as well. And the other most important thing, which was actually raised by the African Union Commissioner Mohamed Ali Yusuf, is the reform of the institution. And the reform of the institution is, I think, the part and the parcel of the discussion of the African leaders here in the very compound of the African Unions, and member countries are actually committed toward realizing a very, strong institutions, very reliant on its own resources for its expenses, specifically when you talk about the financial resources as well. And the other most important thing he mentioned is the global voice of the Africa, or the African continent in general. Specifically, since 2023, the African Union joined the G20. Africa has been making some stride in terms of just advancing some of its agenda, some of interests at the global level. But he said that African countries are actually very much happy about this one, but they also are committed to ramp up such a kind of efforts to make sure that Africa has the right position at the international level as well. In its effort to address some of the outstanding issues related to the peace and security situation, the African Union, he said, has a plan to engage with, for example, some of the leaders in the Sahel who have actually seized the power through the unconstitutional change of the government. And he particularly mentioned that the African Union, this continental body, has a zero tolerance against such a kind of political activity, such a kind of, unethical things. He said that. And African Union really want to engage with these countries and to bring them to the tables and to solve some of the crises that they have. And he also said that there has to be some comprehensive, holistic approach in the Western Africa. Not only the issue is not only the issue of the three Sahel countries, but the issue is that's a broader agenda, a broader things to the countries of the Western African countries. So he was referring to the countries in the west part of the continent to come together to solve these problems in that areas as well. Apart from that, he said that the African leaders and this very whole deliberate on the climate-related challenge in the continent, as I've said earlier, and this is the fact that Africa, despite the fact that it's contributed less than 4% of the global greenhouse emission, Africa still burden the majority of the crisis of the climate change at a global level. And he actually calling on the international communities to encourage their collaboration and partnership with the African countries to reduce the burden of the African countries, which is actually coming out of this climate change. And he also calling on the African countries to come together on this particular agenda as well. So these are some of the agendas which were actually raised by the Burundian president, who is also the current chairperson of the African Union, and the African Union Commissioner, Mohamed Ali Yusuf. Just earlier, before I came to front of the camera to tell you about what was happening in the very whole of the African Union. So, viewers, as you can see, understand, today the African Union Heads of State and Government has been concluded, and Ethiopian, the Pulse of Africa, since the start of the PRC, or the Permanent Representative Committee meetings, and then after the 48th Ordinary Executive Council meeting of the African Union, and today the 39 African Union Heads of State and Government Summit has been covered by the Pulse of Africa. We have been giving you some updates on this discussion, some of the sideline discussion, some of the exclusive interviews as well. And of course, we do have some journalists in the studio. They will give you some briefing on some of the issues which I'm not giving you by now. For now, thank you very much from the headquarters of the African Union. Goodbye.
That has been the live report of our reporter, Barakat Sisai from the African Union headquarters. We thank you so much, Barakat Sisai, for that brief and comprehensive update regarding the closing ceremony of the 39 African Union Summit. The closing ceremony of the African Union Summit has just been concluded, and media briefing has been provided by the chairperson of the African Union and the chairperson of the African Union Commission. And lots of commitments, lots of ideas were provided by the African Union officials during the media briefing. The 2026 African Union Summit has been conducted under the theme Assuring Sustainable Water Availability and Safe Sanitation Systems to Achieve the Goals of Agenda 2063. And that brings us to the end of our live coverage of the 39 African Union Summit closing ceremony. Thank you for watching, and bye for now.
Welcome to the Pulse of Africa, your gateway to Africa's vibrant stories, voices and visions. Join us every Monday and Wednesday for POA in Depth, where we provide sharp analysis of pressing current affairs, keeping you informed and engaged. Tuesdays feature the Africa We Want, dedicated to the African Union's Agenda 2063, discover Africa's journey toward a prosperous and integrated future. On Thursdays, tune into El Dorado, highlighting Africa's rich natural resources and how they can drive true prosperity. Fridays bring you Roundup, where seasoned journalists discuss enduring issues shaping our continent's destiny. Saturdays showcase the editorial, offering Pulse of Africa's perspective on Africa's challenges and opportunities, and celebrate the notables, recognizing remarkable Africans making a difference. And don't forget, Sundays are for Africa Melody, honoring our culture, music and entertainment. So tune into the Pulse of Africa and experience the vitality of our continent every day of the week. Subscribe now.